Thanks very much, Wayne. And I can't see everybody on my screen, so if somebody has a question or wants to ask for clarification, feel free to ping Steve, and Steve, maybe you can decide whether to hold it. I did put some slides in here to remind me to stop and ask for comments, but I can bypass those if indeed it makes editing more difficult. So thanks for the opportunity to talk about Winlink. Tonight I'm going to do an overview of the Winlink system rather than a tutorial on how to use Winlink, because it's I think for a group like this it's important to get a sense of what Winlink can actually do. So I'm going to cover a lot of material tonight to help convey the range of capabilities Winlink provides, because it's difficult to know in advance which features may interest a particular group or a particular individual. So Winlink, I view Winlink as one tool in the ARES toolbox, along with narrowband emergency messaging system, verbal radiograms, tactical messaging, NCS skills, and all the things that the folks on the call today are familiar with. So the topics we'll cover will be objectives, Winlink structure and function, hardware and software, some key features of Winlink Express. I'll talk a bit about our Winlink hybrid gateway here in Hillsborough County, and end with some potential training opportunities. So the objective is to understand the basics of the Winlink system and how it complements other messaging tools, and also to encourage you and those in your group to continue exploring Winlink if you like, if you see something about it that interests you. In other words, does Winlink provide interesting possibilities for you or your group? That's a question I hope you'll be thinking about as we go through this evening. So I had only been a member of ARES for a relatively short time when somebody, it might have been Fletch N1MEO or Ed KA1IGN, suggested that maybe we should do something with Winlink. And my reaction was more software. I'm still learning FLDigi, because at that point I was still learning FLDigi, and I actually wasn't sure there was room in my head for any more new information. But happily, with help, I found Winlink actually easier to learn than FLDigi. But alas, I'm still learning FLDigi, so perhaps some of you are in that same situation. It's interesting stuff, and I enjoy doing it, but there's a lot to learn. So what is Winlink? Well, it's a worldwide store and retrieve email system using radio and internet. You can exchange email with any valid email address in the world, not just with hams. And it's operated by an all-volunteer group called the Amateur Radio Safety Foundation. By way of a bit of history, Winlink can be traced back into the 1980s to some text-based messaging that was eventually adapted for Navy, Mars, and the National Traffic System. Winlink Classic came along when Windows was developed, and then when the internet came along, a program called Netlink was added to Winlink so that Winlink could be used over the internet. And then our current version of Winlink, which is Winlink 2000, started in the planning stage in 1998. And it's been evolving ever since then. But this sort of shows you how it began as a radio text-based system and then morphed into a Windows-based system that works both on the internet and over the air. So Winlink is used extensively, as you may know, in the southeastern states that are subject to tropical storms, and in western states where wildfires occur annually. For example, here's a quote from the ARES webpage indicating that Winlink is well known for its role in emergency and disaster relief communication, providing email with attachments, position reporting, weather reports, and information bulletins. The system was extensively used in the aftermath of the high-impact 2017 hurricane season in the Caribbean, and many of you will remember that as being quite a mess down there. In California, a quote from a briefing from the car wildfire, Winlink continues to be the go-to mode to communicate with the Red Cross Disaster Operations Center. There are no voice channels that can reach Sacramento. There was a hope that Carla system would work, but a Carla node burned in the fire. I didn't know what Carla was when I read this quote, so I looked it up. It's the California Amateur Radio Linking Association, and they operate a network of repeaters in California and Western Nevada. So the lesson learned for us here is that linked repeaters are great until the one you need burns in a fire or is otherwise disrupted. And excuse me, we know that this probably applies to regular repeaters as well, and it's always good to have a plan B. So Winlink structure is based on common message servers that are on the internet and radio message servers that bridge radio to internet. So this is the standard diagram that they use to talk about Winlink. So this is us down here. We're operating our computers connected to our radios. The software we use is Winlink Express. And with this software, we connect to the radio message servers, which are VHF or HF radios connected to the internet. And from there, our email goes to all 5 of these common message servers up here. There's also a telnet capability. So if you have a computer with an internet connection, you can telnet right into the servers, again, using the Winlink Express software. Winlink also has a webmail facility. So if you have a smartphone with a browser, a tablet, computer, you can log into the webmail link and pick up your mail there. So the email resides on all 5 of the common message servers, and when you retrieve it, the email is deleted from all 5. So it doesn't have an archiving capability like we're perhaps used to with our regular email. Therefore, it's a good idea to consider reading all of your Winlink email on the same device. If you don't do that, different messages will download to different devices, and you'll have to figure out how to manage that. Or maybe that's not a bad thing if you're downloading ARES email on one device and personal email on another. That may not be a bad thing. So this is a map showing RMS gateways. You can see that most of them are in the US and in Europe, but a few in other parts of the world. Some of these gateways are H gateways. You can see the little H's here. These are hybrid gateways that are part of the Winlink hybrid gateway network. This is a self-healing mesh network based on PACTOR. The system autoflows email from VHF to HF and from HF to HF until the email reaches the internet or the addressee. Here's a 24-hour snapshot of radio connections in the Winlink system. And here's a zoomed-in view of our part of the world. Again, a 24-hour snapshot. The red lines are 80-meter connections. The blue lines are 40 meters. The gray in here are 20 meters, and I think the green might be 15 meters. So you can see where a lot of the traffic happens here along the eastern seaboard. I'll skip over that. The equipment you need for this is basically a terminal node controller in addition to your radio and computer. And these TNC can be either hardware TNC or software. The role of the TNC is basically to convert the ASCII coding that comes out of the computer into audio tones that can be broadcast over radio. That's what the basic role of the TNC does. So these are some hardware TNCs. If you've done packet before, you might recognize some of these. There are lots of others. This is a newer, small version that's used a lot for APRS on vehicles and people's homes. One nice thing about Winlink Express is that it supports a lot of these TNCs. That is, configuration software is built right in. So if you have a time wave, AEA time wave, if you have one of these models, the configuration files are built into the Winlink Express software, and they'll automatically configure your TNC for you. If you have a Cantronics, for example, these are some of the Cantronics, these are the Cantronics models that have the built-in configuration files. So that makes them easy to use on Winlink. Winlink also has software TNCs. Some are built into the Winlink Express, and a couple are third-party. Again, this allows a computer to convert the ASCII to AFSK. And KISS is a common one that's used with SignalLink and Rig Blaster equipment. There's KISS down here on the list of TNC configuration files. So if you have a SignalLink or Rig Blaster or another sound card interface, you can run Packet on HF using the RDOP TNC, which is built into Winlink Express. And you can also use Packet on VHF with a third-party software called Sound Modem, which works very well. It's one that we use a lot here in Manchester and Hillsborough County. These software are free. They do request a donation, but you can download and use them for free. One thing to point out that the old name for Winlink Express is RMS Express, and sometimes, I'm not sure they fixed it yet, but you download Winlink Express, and when you install it, it comes up as RMS Express. And that may be because of the way that it's linked to other programs. But maybe someday they'll change that. So if you're new to Winlink and you download Winlink Express, don't be surprised if it comes up saying RMS Express. One of the nice things about Winlink is that it complements NBEMS. Both operate on HF and on VHF with a variety of operating modes and frequencies for different band conditions. There are some differences. Winlink is radio to email system, which offers 3 modes and 5 redundant worldwide servers. It also has message pickup stations when the internet is out. NBEMS is local to regional system, offering dozens of modes. I think I counted 137 once when I had nothing better to do and went through all the listings in the FLVG. I think I got up to 135 or 137 modes. So that's offers a lot of flexibility as well. A nice aspect is that both programs can be open in the same computer simultaneously, share a signal link and share a frequency. In fact, at the simulated emergency test last November in Manchester, we did our FLDG and our Winlink on the same frequency, and we're able to switch back and forth, sending messages either in FLDG or in Winlink. So if you're equipped with a sound card for NBMS, you're already equipped for Winlink. All you need is a bit of software that's free. This is a listing, or a map rather, of the VHF packet stations in our area. Again, these are VHF stations that have internet connections. You can see there are a few in Maine, there are quite a few in Connecticut, and some in southern Massachusetts. This is our gateway here in Hillsborough County. It operates on 145.710, and it identifies in CW with my call sign. We also have two digipeaters in the area. Because they're digital repeaters, they operate on 145.710. The Elliott digipeater on the roof of Elliott Hospital identifies in CW as KA1IJN, and the one in Nashua at the home with K9AEN identifies in CW as K9AEN. So if you get on the air and tune to 145.710 and listen for a while, if you can hear any of these CW IDs, there's a good chance you can access the VHF gateway. This is sort of the coverage area that the three provide. As you can see, it gets kind of ragged around the edges due to our terrain here in southern New Hampshire, especially as you get north of Manchester and north of Concord. So for a while, we had another digipeater up at Jim Fowler's place, KA1SU on Quimby Mountain. We took it down because we were having some problems there, but Jim emailed me yesterday and said we can put it back up. And in fact, he's offering me an antenna that's 100 feet higher than the previous one. So hopefully by the end of the week or early next week, we'll be back on Quimby with KA1SU as the CW ID for that digipeater. That would extend our range farther north. Again, it's quite a washboard up here, as you can see, but we can get a little bit further up into the lakes region and so forth. Again, if you listen on any of those frequencies and hear any of those CW IDs, chances are you can get into the system on VHF. So if we wanted to expand VHF coverage, we could add fixed and mobile repeaters. We could add more VHF gateways under other call signs. We can even place a gateway on a repeater frequency. In fact, for drills and incidents, I currently have the okay to use Winlink on the Epsom 70 centimeter repeater that HARP uses quite a bit, and on the Uncanunic 2-meter repeater out here about a mile from my backyard. So that's really handy. We've done some testing on Epsom, and putting a gateway on Epsom works really well. So this is a digipeater. It's basically an FM radio with a terminal node controller over here and a power supply, of course, an antenna and a piece of coax. And it's standalone. It's not connected to the internet, and it just repeats what comes in and spits it out again using an omnidirectional antenna. If we add a computer to this combination, then we have a local standalone post office. So again, it's not on the internet, but anyone in range of the digipeater can post mail to the post office contained here and pick up mail here. So it's a nice training vehicle for a group that wants to do some Winlink training, but doesn't want to tie up all the CMS servers with all of their training messages. So that's a nice way to train. You can also put a system like this on a regular repeater and have a local post office that covers a wider area. And again, the HARPNet uses the Epsom repeater, which we were testing on a couple of weeks ago. And that covers basically from North Conway to the seacoast and down into Manchester and Nashua. So you can get quite a bit of training done. If we wanted to do that, we just temporarily put a digipeater or a RMS gateway on the Epsom repeater and use it as a local post office for training in that way. And if you take the combination and add internet in, now you've got a regular RMS gateway, much like the one that we operate here in Hillsborough County. On the HF side, here's a map of the regional HF stations with internet connections. There we are again. On the HF side, we operate on 3595. Winlink often refers to center frequencies rather than dial frequencies. So the center frequency is 3596.5. And as always for digital, it's upper sideband. This is what the gateway looks like. It's quite a stack of equipment. There's a HF radio here, signal link over here for the sound card modes. There's a TNC for the VHF side. This is a computer that runs the gateway software. VHF radio. We need an HF auto tuner because although we're only listening on 80 meters most of the time, because we're auto forwarding, we have to be prepared to auto forward on 160 through 10 meters. So we need to be able to auto tune our inverted V dipole, and a Pactor modem that has P1 to P4 capability. So again, this gives us HF capability to receive and transmit 160 through 10, We currently listen on 80 and auto forward on any of the other bands as needed. We could easily expand listening to additional HF bands. It's just a software toggle in the software. We can do remote management using no machine software, and the house here has a whole house generator, and we have a large battery, and I have a solar backup for the battery that operates the gateway. So we could stand a power outage for a week or so without too much trouble. This is what the gateway software looks like. As I mentioned, there's a VHF side and an HF side, and the piece in the middle here coordinates where the traffic goes when it comes in. So if the internet is available, traffic coming in on VHF goes to the internet, traffic coming in on HF goes to the internet, and that's all handled by this program, which is called RMS Relay. If the internet were not available here, the VHF traffic would still go to RMS Relay. RMS Relay would say no internet and would send the VHF traffic over to the HF side. VHF traffic coming in would just get rerouted back to the HF side. So I thought I might talk a little bit about how auto forwarding works, because it's an important feature of Winlink, and there are only some narrow portions of each of the bands where auto forwarding is permitted. So basically, Winlink downloads a propagation forecast every evening. In my case, it's about 2 a.m. in the morning. This uses the Voice of America coverage area prediction model, and it lays out the probability of being able to reach any of these stations on these frequencies. So the software figures that out and plots up a plot like this that the software can then look at and sort of step through in the order of highest probability to reach a station to relay a message. I was doing some work next to this system yesterday. A message came in from N2LEE down in Herndon, Virginia, and you can see that the propagation was pretty good, and it was a pretty good connection into our gateway. What he was doing was relaying a radio-only message into this station, and apparently the message was sent both through the internet and also forwarded. So apparently somebody was testing to see what the time difference was between getting a message through the internet and getting a message over HF radio. So here's the message. It's 4AA3YB, and it's going to a mailbox on a radio message server run by AB4NX. AB4NX is in Georgia, and AY3YB is in AA3YB is in Florida. So it came in. So it came in on 7102, and it's going out on 10145, looking for AB4NX to transfer the message for AA3YB. I'll talk a little bit more about how that happens in a minute. In terms of how the different Winlink modes perform, unlike FLDigi, where there are 130 some, there are only 4 here. There are 5 listed, but WinMore, the green one, is going away very shortly. I just got a note from the Winlink folks on Friday that we should stop supporting WinMore on our gateways. So that leaves us with RDOP, Pactor 3, Pactor 4, and another one called Vera, Vera 4.0, which just came out, which is a fairly speedy. It's also not free. There may be a free version that's smaller, slower. But I think this high-speed version costs about $70. And also Pactor 4 is, we can only use Pactor 4 in this country when the FCC declares an emergency of some sort, and that requires a high volume of traffic to move quickly. Otherwise, we're restricted down here to Pactor 3, which quite a few people use. This is a 30-day snapshot of stations using our HF gateway. It's a map produced by the Winlink system, and I might have chosen different colors for the station locations. This is not a mistake. This is actually a vessel that came into our station. It was trying to reach the Coast Guard because it was in heavy fog, and its navigation beacon was out. So it was asking the Coast Guard to put out a notice to mariners because it didn't want to get run over by a much bigger boat. This is a sailing vessel. It had an SV6 call sign, I guess, so obviously a European origin. But you can see we occasionally have people coming in from fairly far away, but most of the use is in the IS range. And that's intentional. You can see this is a range of connections, again, a 30-day snapshot on 80 meters. And most of our connections come in within NBIS range. A few of them are a little bit farther away, but for the most part, they're where you would expect. Most of the usage has been Winmore. This is the one that's going away, so some of the usage may taper off until people readjust to some of the other modes that Winlink will continue to support. These are some of the ARES groups that use our gateway. They use them for training. They run check-in nets. They send net reminders and rosters to their ARES members, and they also do radio-only messaging drills. The groups in Florida, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York use the HF side pretty frequently, weekly to monthly. Wisconsin and Michigan groups come in occasionally, and part of that may be propagation issues. Arkansas and Louisiana have come in once or twice. Again, that's probably mostly a propagation issue that limits their use. And we picked up on this. Virginia has a statewide Wednesday Winlink check-in. What they do is ask people to send email to a particular station every Wednesday. And then at the end of the day or early the next day, the receiving station compiles a roster of everybody who checked in. And that's something that we've started to do in Hillsborough County to stimulate some Winlink use. So one of the important pieces of information that comes out of this, and the main reason that I wanted to show it to you, is that if these groups can reach our gateway, we should be able to reach gateways in their areas when the internet here is out. So that tells us what our capability to get out is if they're getting in pretty reliably. Next, a few key features of Winlink Express. This is the client software, and again, I don't want to get into a tutorial about how to use it, but I'm happy to help people who are interested in getting going. Again, Winlink Express is the same as RMS Express. This is what the mail client software looks like. Messages in the inbox. The box is over here, and you can see the messages here in a review pane. Looks pretty much like a regular email client. The operating modes, there are quite a few of them. These are modes for connecting to radio message servers over the internet or by satellite. These peer-to-peer, point-to-point modes don't need a message server or an internet. They're similar to some of the modes in FLDG where you can connect directly to another computer. And then there are radio-only modes that don't need an internet, but typically they would go to a radio message server. So I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the AB4NX and the A3YB, AB4NX was operating a message pickup station. So when internet is out or when you're doing radio only emailing, you need a place on the radio system to drop and pick up email, and these are message pickup stations. So radio message servers on the hybrid network have built-in post offices, and in the Winlink Express client software, you can specify two. They have 3 boxes here, but they ask you just to pick 2 where you would go to pick up email if the internet were out, and you have to go get your email over the radio. So you want these to be sort of within range, either of your VHF range or within HF range. And N2LEE has been a very reliable connection for us. I'm not sure why we have good propagation to Herndon, Virginia, but it seems to work well in both directions. And our gateway here only runs about 30 watts on 80 meters, so it's not that we're running massive power or anything. These are some of the standard forms built into Winlink, and here are the ICS forms that will look familiar to many of you. This is a message form, and on the message form you can use your call sign. Winlink addresses are typically call sign at winlink.org, but you can also use a technical call sign. So if I support Catholic Medical Center in Manchester, so if I'm emailing from there, I could use CMC-K1E8SED so that I know that it's a CMC related message. Also on the message form, if you have some favorite forms that you'd like to use, you can put 4 of them up here. And I've got the ICS-213, the radiogram, a location status report, and a hospital ICS-213. So I can just click on those and the forms pop right up in the message form below. The forms in Winlink are very much like the custom forms in NBMS. You fill out an HTML form, and then it goes and sends the text and doesn't send all of the formatting. And similarly, here's a radiogram, and again, like a custom form in NBMS. This might be my favorite feature of Winlink. It's Winlink will generate a communications log as a PDF file. And I have to confess, there are lots of things I like about amateur radio. Logging is not at the top of my list. So this is a great feature. You can fill in the parameters you want and fill in the header for the form here, and then it prints out a PDF. There's a close-up of it. Every message from to handles multiple addresses. The subject is here, and it's well organized, and importantly, it's legible, which sadly some of my 309s are not. So again, that's a really nice feature. Potential training opportunities. So I mentioned I'm happy to help operators set up Winlink. I've had some success doing that over the phone with individuals, or we can do small group workshops on Zoom. I'm happy to help people. It's again, as I conveyed in the beginning, I found it much easier than FLDG. There are much fewer things to set, not as many configurations to set, and once they're set, they stay pretty stable. And the software automatically updates itself if you let it. So that's very handy. I mentioned the Wednesday Winlink Tech in Net here. We email Jack, NF1L, every Wednesday. I encourage people to use the radio, VHF or HF, but Jack will give us half credit if we come in on Telnet. There's the quarterly Winlink email test run by EdN5EI, which some of you are on. We could do radio messaging drills via local post office, which I alluded to earlier. That's something that we could do if people were interested. We could also do radio messaging with other ARES groups, because there are quite a few using our system. During the set, we could do some transferring between FLDG and Winlink, passing them back and forth between those systems. And I'm sure if you think about it, you'll come up with probably more and better training ideas. So a quick summary. That's a lot of material to cover, I know, but I wanted to get in as much as I could, and while we had this opportunity. So we covered local region. Winlink has local, regional, and global coverage. The software is well supported. It complements a narrowband emergency messaging system and uses some of the same hardware. You can access Winlink mail by VHF, HF, Telnet, or a browser through the webmail link. You can expand coverage with digipeaters or repeaters. Radio-only email boxes are there when the internet is out. It offers automatic forwarding by HF radio, which is can be very handy. Offers peer-to-peer, point-to-point messaging, built-in message forms, reports and bulletins. I didn't get into the reports and bulletins, but there's a catalog of material that you can download from the main Winlink server. There's modes for various man conditions, and again, one of my favorites generates an ICS name message log pretty easily. So in terms of what to do next, there are lots of good tutorials by K4REF on YouTube. You can contact me for training and assistance. I will put this presentation on the George Blakesley's ARES webpage so people can pick it up and look at it if you wish. I'm going to stop here, but there is some extra info and screenshots that follow that hopefully would help people get started if they're interested in Winlink. So I'm happy to hear any comments or answer any questions that I can.
Jay?
Yeah.
This is N1RKO. You say this can be done without internet?
Yes, you can set up a local message server that's not on the internet, and a local group, anyone who can reach that message server can park email there or pick up email there. It has an SMTP type email system built into it.
So can this be done independent of a computer?
No, you need a computer to handle the email. It has to be done with the Winlink Express software.
And that has to be done on a PC?
On a PC, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You can do Jay, you mentioned you don't need the computer to be a digipeater, right? You said something else too about that.
Yeah, digipeater just passes the packets through from the client radio to the gateway. The gateway is on the internet, so the digipeater just extends the range of the gateway. That's the way ARES digipeaters work. It passes material to the gateway, and you can actually go through 2 digipeaters to get to the gateway. That the software will handle 2 digipeaters. So it's a little bit slower than coming directly in, but it does work. And the digipeater, particularly the one at Elliott Hospital, works really well because it's high, and it's on the roof, and it's really a great location. If you've ever, most of you probably haven't been up there, but it's a wonderful view from the roof at Elliott Hospital in West Manchester. I'm sorry, East Manchester.
One thing to note is that if you get a whole bunch of different digis on the same frequency, you're going to end up with a lot of hidden transmitter syndrome, where you're going to clog up the network pretty fast if it gets a lot of use. In the old days, the 80s, we had a UHF backbone system and the ROSE network node in Concord. But that's all gone now because of pave pause and disuse. But that's the way it would have operated in those days through that network. The only problem with it right from the get-go, of course, was that if there was ever a major disaster, it didn't take much. There's a lot of single points of failure in that system. That's something we would like to avoid, is any kind of local infrastructure that has single points of failure. That's one of the things I like about Winlink. It's got a number of ways to get the job done. And I almost like it better than NBEMS. I have a feeling that with a little bit of practice, we could use Winlink and not NBEMS because of the point-to-point using VARA. You could do pretty much everything we're doing with NBEMS, a lot more automated and a lot faster. And people would have one bit of software to learn that's actually easier to learn than NBEMS. That's something to think about.
Yeah, certainly my experience has been that it's easier to use and it has a lot of capability, but it doesn't have all of the capability that FLDigi has. But again, FLDigi, I guess, was originally developed as a logging software for contesting and so forth. So it has a lot of modes that I certainly don't use. I only use about 3 or 4 of the modes in FLDigi. But I do like Winlink, and I like the fact that you can do automated forwarding, and I'm encouraged that there are so many other ARES groups within range that A, are using Winlink, and B, are using our HF gateway for some of their training. It gives me some encouragement that we could do some meaningful joint training with some of those other nearby groups, nearby Virginia, Pennsylvania. There are quite a few stations that on the Saturday morning digital net that come in from New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut. So there's a lot of interest out there in sort of regional work, and it seems to me that's something we could take advantage of in some way.
One thing I learned tonight that was new, I have been using Winlink for a while, and I do have ADROP and as well as VARA. But the sound modem TNC software to be able to do the VHF side, can you talk a little bit more about that? And is specifically the software itself, is it pretty easy to set up?
Yeah, it looks, let's see. I'm not sure I can get it up here. I'm not sure how to get out of this. Or if I stop sharing. Yes, it's easy to get up. Let me just scroll through this and I'll show you where to get it. I'm not sure Yep, okay, here it is. So it looks like this. UZ7HO is the author. And basically it's a little bit like Winlink. You set up a couple things here. You go to the settings menu and pick up devices, and here's where you look for your signal link or your sound card, whichever one you have, and
yeah, signal link.
Most of the defaults will work. This is the other tab, the modem tab, but again, most of these defaults will work. You just have to check them and make sure that you don't have anything awry here. And we always use the A side for our stuff. So that's all there is to set up. And then this is the website, UZ7HO. And in Winlink Express, when you go to the packet session, you just, again, what you have, when you do auto start in FLDigi, you browse and search for FL amp or FL message or what have you. You just do the same thing here. You browse for where you've parked sound modem on your computer, and then it automatically opens sound modem when you open the Winlink packet session. So once you set that up, you don't have to think about it anymore. It just opens automatically and runs. So it's really nice. And it's free.
Couple comments.
Yeah, Jack.
The K4REF YouTube videos will step you through the whole thing on how to set that up.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing is Jay has mentioned the Wednesday Winlink check-in, or the Winlink Wednesday. The format is a single line. We ask for the call sign, first name, city, state, and whether they are using HF or VHF or Telnet. One line, that's all we're asking for in the check-in. And they do it every Wednesday, and I report back For example, some people come in on both HF and VHF separately as two separate Wednesday reports. But that's what we do every Wednesday.
Super.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jack.
And I'm sure Jack would be happy to hear from others outside of Hillsborough County if it becomes too onerous. I'm sure Jack will let me know. But Jack's been really good about getting reports out and letting us know how it's going. So it's an easy way, sort of a low impedance way to get people to use Winlink, especially if they start out with Telnet without a radio. So we encourage people to try that.
Yeah, Jay, when you said Winmore was going away and we're going to use RDOT,
Yep.
I set it up and I ended up working with an 8 station.
Great.
And I got one of my Winlink Wednesday check-ins through him.
That's great.
So it anywhere you go, it'll show up eventually.
Yep.
Yeah, there's been a ton of chatter on the dropping of Winmore. Everybody's been scrambling to get the other software. It was on one of the reflectors on Groups.io.
Right. Well, RDOP is built into Winlink Express, and you set it up pretty much the same way you set up Winmore. It's just a matter of selecting the sound card and so forth. And Mike W1EAA and I tested RDOP on our gateway yesterday, and it worked. So I think we're ready, and I'm dropping Winmore on the gateway here on the 20th of July. So hopefully people will be ready to switch over. So yeah, people should try coming in on HF as well. It's again, it's set up here as NVIS for regional coverage, and so if you can get into either the Saturday morning 80 meter nets, you can certainly get into the HF gateway here on 3595.
You're muted, John. John, you're muted.
Okay, here we go. How about now?
There you go. Right
Okay.
on.
Question, Arnab, do you have to register like you did with Winlink, or just download and use it, or what?
When you download Winlink Express, you go into the settings and set up Winlink, and that's how you get an email address. Your email address would be your call sign at winlink.org.
Which I have already.
Yeah, when you have that, well, then you're all set. RDOP is built into the Winlink Express software. You just have to pick it on the, I don't know if I can get back there quickly enough. But,
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, so this is a session up here. So you work this pull down menu here,
Yeah.
and these are all the choices. So you just pick RDOP Winlink here.
All right.
It will open up the RDOP TNC, and all you have to do is to set it is to go into the RDOP settings in the RDOP window and put in your sound card the way you do in FLDG.
Okay, very good, Jay.
Now, the only one we need a separate software for that we use is the Vara. That's a separate software that you have to, well, like you
Right.
said, there's a free version and then there's a one-time purchase version.
Right. Yeah, I think the free version runs more slowly, or maybe it's limited time. I don't remember. I ended up buying it just to have it for the gateway. So
Yeah, we probably spend more money on coffee in a month than, the cost of the registration. So I went ahead and purchased it. It was, it's out of sight, out of mind now.
right.
And it varies pretty quick. I mean, as you could see on that chart, that was I like that graph that you put up on the speed. That was very helpful.
Yeah, those were simulations. That wasn't actual. This was using a noise generator and varying the signal and noise to get the speed at various signal to noise ratios. So theoretically, RDOF is better than WinMore, but it doesn't show up that way here. But here's VARA up here, which is in good good signal to noise conditions. It's better than Pactor 3, which is, I find Pactor 3 to be very reliable. One advantage of Pactor 3 is that, or all three of these modes, is they operate at negative signal to noise ratios. So very good. Well, if there are no more comments, I'll turn it back to Wayne. Thanks very much, everybody. And also, certainly if you're interested in getting going, send an email, k1eh@arrl.net, and I'd be happy to make arrangements to help you.
Say, Jay,
Yep.
this is John, KC1LHD. For those of us who are Windows challenged, how is this supported on Linux systems? Do you know?
Winlink per se is not supported on Linux. There is a piece of Linux, there is a Linux program. I'm trying to think of the name of it, that will access Winlink servers, but I'm not a Linux person, and it would be painful for me to try to help you. But send me a note, and I will. I'll dig out the name of the program and send it back to you. I'm tempted to say PackLink, but I don't think that's it. It's something that sounds like PackLink.
All right. Thanks,
And
Jay.
Jay, on that same note, there's nothing for a Mac either, right?
Yes, Winlink does have oh no, I'm sorry, Winlink does not have a Mac form either. It was, it's been married to Windows, I guess, since about the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And there are a lot of interacting programs, and the people who program it, I guess, just have no plans to port it to other operating systems. It may be possible, actually, if you to run Windows in emulation on those other machines, and then run Winlink in emulation on a Windows emulation on Linux or Mac. That would probably work.
Are there any more questions for Jay?
Bruce, you're muted.
Your hand is up, but you're muted. And your audio is like the chipmunks. Try again, Bruce.
No, never mind.
Oh, that's good now. You're good now. Go
All
ahead.
right. So on the other form, you had the Vera Winlink is not the same as the other, what Wayne was talking about?
Yes. Yes, it's this Vera here. There may be two versions. This is the $70 version. There may be another version that runs more slowly, but the gateway supports Vera. In fact, we just switched over to a new gateway version, Vera 4.01 or 02, I think we're running now.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bruce is one of our regulars.
Trying. We got Mount Monadnock in the way.
Yeah, well, that's what AIS is for. Okay, Wayne, back to you. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Winlink.